In the 1980s, finding a hitman wasn't as complicated as you might think. You didn't need to venture into the dark alleys or secret corners. Instead, you would simply just buy a copy of Soldiers of Fortune magazine, flip to the classified ads, and boom, gun for hire, let's go. Welcome to a journey into a bizarre and odd world of hired assassins before the internet. We'll explore some chilling ads and talk a little bit about the victims and the murderers. And lastly, we'll explore some legal issues the magazine experienced. The Soldiers of Fortune magazine, known for promoting war news, combat, security, it also thrived on its classified ads until lawsuits forced them to shut down the section. The magazine remained tarnished. It even inspired video game creators to create some notorious content based on it. Now, during this time in the 1980s, it was considered disturbing content, but I wouldn't say it's disturbing in today's climate of video games. So much so that it was deemed inappropriate for minors under 17 in certain countries. If you have any relatives or missing people that you might know and that happened in the 80s, you might want to consider something like this. There was people caught doing this. Imagine how many people wasn't caught. Just an idea. Now, before we get into tonight's story, if you're a fan of the dark and odd stories found around the world, then this channel's for you. I post about once a week. Don't miss any of them. Hit subscribe, the like button for me. It really helps the channel. Thank you. Now, let's continue our story about this disturbing hitman situation. Imagine it's the 1980s. A world far removed from the internet and the dark corners of today's dark web. If you needed a hitman, where would you go? A dark alley, maybe a shadowy bar, smoky rooms, or even ask a friend? No, I don't think so. It wasn't actually that complicated. All you had to do was simply buy a copy of the Soldiers of Fortune magazine, flip to the mercenary classified ad section, and boom, gun for hire ad. Let's go. Thank you for joining me in tonight's journey. Sit back, relax, have a drink once more, and prepare to explore this dark world that existed before the internet. Assassins come in all forms. Some, like Julius Caesar, meet their fate at the hands of people that are close to them. Or somebody like President Lincoln, who didn't know the assassin. But tonight, we're diving into some stories of those who fell victim to complete strangers. Individuals who decided to take their life by posting a hitman classified ad. Unlike the well-known assassinations of history, these victims had no idea that they were even targets. The story begins with the Soldiers of Fortune magazine. Founded by Robert K. Brown in 1975, war news, combats, guns, you name it, security, and also had a reputation for these classified ads. If you wanted to be assassin back then, just for 75 cents per letter or character, you could post anything you wanted. Yes, literally anything, including these chillin' posts about hired assassins. In 1984, a man by the name of John Wayne Hearn decided to solicit his skills through these ads. Ex-Marine, 76 or 69. Non-vet, ex-DI weapons specialist, jungle warfare, high-risk assignments, U.S. or overseas. In court, Hearn claims that this was nothing more than him looking for security guard jobs. He wasn't looking to solicit assassination ads or anything like that. But he did report that about 20 to 30 calls would come in every day for these assassin jobs. It took a sinister turn when he met Deborah Bannister. She was looking for someone to kill her sister's ex-husband. And I guess, once she was at it, she just decided to kill her own too. Hearn ends up striking a romance up with her, and they begin to talk a lot and become close. They end up killing her husband first, and essentially a gunshot, and left his car by a lake. So the cops contact Deborah and it's like, hey, we can do an autopsy on your husband. And she didn't want to. She was like, no. And she didn't want any type of examinations being done on her husband. She just wanted to go to the funeral, be done with it. Oddly enough, Hearn ends up claiming to be her cousin at the funeral, goes to the funeral, takes photos with her loved ones in the morning of someone he killed. And Deborah told everyone that was her cousin she hasn't seen in 5 years. Not only was Hearn responsible for her husband's death, but also the death of Cecil Beatty. That's her sister's ex-husband that she initially thought about to hire Hitman to begin with. At the time, Hearn was expecting to receive the death penalty once he finally did get caught. He ended up turning state's evidence on Deborah, so he ended up getting life in prison without parole. Okay, so this next story's even more wild and very blunt in your face ad. Let's go into that. Here's Richard Savage's ad. Gun for hire, 37-year-old professional mercenary desires jobs. Vietnam, discreet and very private bodyguard, courier, or other special skills. All jobs considered. But Savage didn't work alone. He actually recruited a small gang of his acquaintances. So there was 3 to 4 people helping him. One of Savage's victims is Anita Spearman. Her husband hired Savage to do the hit. This was just after a few months of her. She was already a cancer survivor, but in the background, her husband's planning this very dirty murder. Bob's her husband, and he ended up getting the death penalty. So there's 3 business associates. We have Bruce, John, and we have Richard Braun. Bruce and John, they wanted Richard out of the picture, and they wanted to assassinate him. So what do? They seen Savage's ad, gun for hire. They ended up shooting him, and he passed away. A lot more bloodier, but you get the picture. There's also 2 other attempted murders that I found kind of interesting. One attempted murder was Dana Free, that essentially had his car blown up while he was in it. A lot of strange things started happening to him, and pretty much he went into hiding after a couple attempts failed. He was so scared he went into hiding. Another one I thought was interesting was an attempt on Doug Norwood's life. Savage and his gang actually shot Doug, and he ended up being in the hospital. Now think about that. He's been shot, he's in the hospital, and when he gets out, he recovers. He kind of slowly gets back into his normal routine. However, he's paranoid about everything, almost like in hyper alertness. He's driving home, again, probably if you tried to follow me to the grocery store or whatever I'm doing, I wouldn't notice. But he is hyper alert and paranoid. Literally months back, almost died because someone tried to have him killed. And so he's driving down the road. He's seeing the same car a lot, and it's following him, is what he thinks. So he turns a couple turns, tries to purposely avoid this car. The car's still on him. It's right there. He's like freaking out at this point. So he calls the police. He says, "Hey, I almost got murdered a couple months ago. There's a car following me, and I think they're trying to kill me." Essentially, this was the downfall of Savage. So once they identified that the person following Doug was Savage's gang, that's when everything unraveled, and Savage and the gang was off the map. They ended up saying that it was actually Doug Norwood's current girlfriend's ex-husband that was trying to have him killed. And it ended up being Savage and his gang. The cops questioned him, took him back, and they ended up going to jail. Savage ended up getting a 60-year life sentence in jail. I really feel like the John Wayne Hearn and Richard Savage is at the very tip of the iceberg here. Well, who knows what was lingering around those ads at this time? Missing or murdered person, relative, it's worth considering. You might be wondering, what was the legal consequences behind this magazine allowing this kind of stuff to happen? The magazine faced tons of lawsuits and paid out millions of dollars. It's no surprise that ending the publication mercenary ads. But their reputation lived on, inspired video game developers to create a game based on this notorious content. The game was disturbing, and after, catching the eye of some governments, it was deemed inappropriate for kids under 16 to minors under 17 in some countries. So we explored some chilling Hitman stories and some ads that they posted and things like that. But while doing research on this, I ran across a research paper from the UK about real assassins. Here's the 7 interesting facts. Number 1, Hitman actually make way less money than you think. I know in movies it's glorified and they're dropping hundreds of Ks, whatever. It's usually like much, much less, and probably way less if you consider the job at hand and the consequences behind it. Number 2, the average age of a hitman is 38, in the UK anyways, from this article. I guess it's a prime age for dark professions. Number 3, Tuesday is the most popular day of the week to carry out a hit. It's not a significant finding in the statistics, but it is something to think about. Number 4, most hits take place in your average town or neighborhood. It's not like in a dark alley or, like the movies portray it. It's usually in a normal home setting. Number 5, the method of delivery on these hits are shootings, not surprisingly. But a close second is actually just beating someone to death. Number 6, there's many types of UK assassins. It ranges from a novice who always gets caught to a master assassin, which usually always gets away. Number 7, hitmen usually get caught by leaving the scene rather than leaving clues behind. It seems that even in a world of contract killing, mistakes can be costly. Remember that the past holds secrets we can't even begin to imagine. Thank you for joining me on today's journey that at times went dark of hired assassins before the internet. That's going to do it for tonight. If you find my work useful, please subscribe, like the video. I upload weekly. Until next time, I love you.